Kathleen, Ayers, and Susan King this week. Ladies, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So Susan's book launched first this week. It's book 4 in the 5 Deadly Sins, and it's Sinfully Wed. And
No,
these
simply yours.
simply yours. Simply yours. Simply
I know
wed.
they all sound alike.
They're all simple. They're just so simple, which is true because they are part of the Dragonblade Flame line, which is
Yes, they are. Yes.
So
Simply Yours launches on Thursday. It's book 4 in the 5 Deadly Sins. So we've only got one sin to go after this. But this one was fun to write because the main character, the hero, is mentioned throughout the other books, but he's been a mercenary. So he's been on the continent. And so nobody has seen him or heard from him. And he hasn't seen his family in years. And so he has no idea when he returns that their circumstances has changed. And he takes a job to make one last little bit of money because his family has been so impoverished. And his job is to kidnap a young lady so this lord can ruin her and marry her. And he kidnaps the wrong woman. So
and our hero says yes to that?
Yeah, he kidnaps the wrong woman. And they end up spending the night together. So you can imagine what happens after that. So
I'm going to need him to redeem his arc for being willing to kidnap and ruin a young lady.
Well, he's not going to ruin her. He gets coerced into it. Like I said, his family, you have to remember, anybody that's read The Deadly Sins knows that the family has been very impoverished and gossiped about, and it's just been very terrible. And so he just kind of gets coerced into doing this. And he does promise himself that if she is very much opposed to being ruined by this lord, he will return her to London. So he does say that.
Yes or no to ruining?
Well, it's a complicated little carriage ride. Let's just say that.
I love
but
that.
Everything turns out okay in the end.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
I have to read it and find out about the complicated carriage ride.
Well, he kidnaps the wrong woman, and she lets him do it because she is the cousin of the other girl, and she wants to save her cousin. So it's a complicated. It's
tribute.
Yeah, it's a complicated, and she has a parasol that she uses like a sword.
Oh yeah.
So it's very it's a complicated carriage ride. Yeah.
That sounds like so much fun. And then they have a whole night together and
they do. They have a whole night together. And the thing I like about Alice, who's my heroine in this, is, all of my Sinclairs are very odd. They're very quirky. They have little odd hobbies, and they do things that you wouldn't ordinarily think that they would do. But she was raised in the desert. So she has a very
like the desert route.
Well, her father was an explorer. And so he dragged her all over the place. And so she is very accommodating about certain things, and then other things not so much. So her idea of what the world should be is because of her past. So she and Malcolm clash quite a bit, but in a very good way.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. And we get one more of the series?
You get one more. Sinfully Wanton comes out in April. So that is the last Sinclair. That's the last one. So, yeah.
Wanton is such a great word.
It is. And she's a little precocious, and she's decided that she doesn't really care about being a lady. It's really not that much fun. So Aurora is a little bit different too. So
great. Well, we'll look forward to that one too, and get Simply Yours on. Well, by the time this airs, it will be live. So
yes, it will be live on Thursday. Yes.
Oh, awesome. Well, the next book that we have releasing this week is E.L. Johnson's book, and it's The Betrayed Bride, and it's part of the Perfect Poison Murders. Because if you're going to have poison, it should be the perfect one.
It should be,
which is an ongoing series of the same couple. So Poppy is the heroine, and she is found love now, and it gets complicated as they go through. So I'll make sure I put the link to Erin's book in the comments so you can grab it if you haven't gotten it anyway, and we'll catch up with Erin in another week. And then the last book that launches this week is Susan King's book, and Susan is a established writer, but this is her Dragonblade debut, and it is the Hawk Laird, and it's book 1 in Celtic Hearts, and I'm so excited to hear about the series.
This is, first of all, the cover, as we were saying before we started here, is just gorgeous. So, and really captures a different aspect of this book because it features the heroine. And when I wrote the original book, which was called Laird of the Wind.
So this is a relaunch of a previously released book.
Issue. It's a revised, edited author's cut kind of a new thing. And this is one of the great things about being able to publish digitally, because we can go back to these books. This book is I don't know, my math is terrible, but 18, 20 years old. It was one of my very first books, and to go back to it now and just take that red pen and go nuts was great. I didn't change a thing about the story, characters, whatever. But I'm a better writer now than I was then. So that was really a privilege to go back and just clean it up, tighten it up. Say, we know what color his eyes are, okay? And just produce, I think, a better story, a tighter story, where things are more vivid. There's more clarity there than I was able to do as a newbie writer. So is that the story? I've written several stories set around the time of Robert Bruce and William Wallace, and most of my books are set in Scotland. One is not. I only have one book that's set in England. So this is one of those. And the hero is James Lindsay, was a rebel who ran with William Wallace. He was unjustly accused of betraying him. He's trying to clear his name, and he finds out that a prophetess was part of this betrayal rumor. So he's dead set on finding her and having her clear this up. But at the same time, he's got a cousin who's been captured, and he wants to exchange this prophetess who's got value for King Edward I, for his cousin. So that's his big plan, and it goes all wonky. So because he finds out,
who would have guessed?
Who would have guessed? Who
would have thunk it?
It's complicated. It's complicated.
You gotta fill the story out. So gotta come up with something. What happens is, as he takes her through the forest, and they're on this journey through the Highlands of Scotland, he has a background as a falconer, and he discovers a goshawk in the forest who's been injured, tangled up, rescues this bird. So now he's got this woman who's very unhappy with him, and he's got this bird.
Kidnapping won't do that to a lady,
Terribly behaved, just a very poorly behaved bird. And so he's got to manage both of them now as he goes through the forest. So in some sense, there's a lot of fun in this book, and then there's a lot of melodrama. You got to go there with it, but it's one of my favorite books. I really loved it and loved writing it the first time, and I loved writing it again. The cover, I was going to say, is the new cover features the heroine in a beautiful way. And when this was originally written, it was very hero-centric kind of a story. So you got the hero in the kilt and the bare chest and everything on the original cover, which was a beautiful cover. But I did not really change that aspect of the book. I think I brought more balance to the characters, being better.
Can you tell us a little bit about the series? I know we have another book up on pre-order. The Falcon Laird's on pre-order now.
Yes, we have Falcon Laird. Yeah, and the second book, Falcon Laird, is March 9th, I think, is the release date. So that has just now gone up for pre-order. It's another gorgeous cover. And the third book is Swan Laird, Falcon Laird, which is available now, at least for pre-order. What is it? It's February 24th for Hawk Laird, isn't it?
Mhm.
And March 9th for Falcon Laird. Falcon Laird is a revised edition of The Angel Knight, was the original name of the book. And it has to do with the same time period. So we have some characters crossing over, and I was much better, as a more experienced writer, I was much better about crisscrossing and pulling this name and highlighting this person. And I also was able to tie these books to the new series that I'm writing new that will start in April, I think is the first release. Falcon Laird is about, this was based on history. When I read that in 1306, Edward I of England imprisoned Scottish royal women in cages and displayed them, hung these cages on towers.
Lord.
Yeah.
Terrible.
The women were captured in Scotland and brought down to into England for, into captivity, and not all of them, but I think 2-3 of them were put in these cages that the king had ordered specifically constructed for them. It's in every history book. There's not a great deal of information on it because the original source is 1306 and what people said about it, and and on and on. One of them was the sister of Robert Bruce, and she was in that cage until 1314. I think she was released from 1306.
Oh my goodness.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. The other one was his cousin who was in a cage. And she kind of disappears. So the feeling is that she died, probably because of this treatment. She was 19 when she was put in this cage.
Oh my goodness.
His wife, his queen, and his 12-year-old daughter were put in convents. Another sister were put in convents in England. He wanted to, according to the records, construct a cage for the 12-year-old daughter. And his counselors had a fit. Thank God they did. Somebody had some sense and said, you cannot do that. So he put her in a convent, but not with her mother, in another convent. So this was happening. And so what I did when I read about this was like, I can't leave this alone. This is an idea that comes out of history, and then the characters fill it out. So I created another cousin, and I threw her in a cage. And so in English,
you got her out again, right?
Yes.
She gets out, yes.
Because I couldn't get her out. So an English knight comes along, sees that this is a horrifying situation. She appears to be dying of pneumonia. So he pulls her out. And Edward says, well, you're going to take her out, you're going to marry her, because I want you to take her castle in Scotland. And as soon as she dies, it's yours. Well, come to find out, she doesn't die. So he's married to her, and she does not die. And he takes her up to Scotland, where her castle is in ruins, and they're, tripping over burned floorboards and, and trying to look for a place to sleep and, this kind of thing. The other aspect of this is that he has inherited from his Scottish mother an ability to heal with his hands.
Oh, so we have just a
develops
little bit of a
begins
paranormal.
to realize that maybe he helped her, and what's he going to do with this? And nobody really should know about this, So that way you wrap in so many layers in a story.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good laying on hands.
Oh, yeah.
And castle DIY to bring a couple closer together.
And, the other thing he discovers when he gets up to this castle, and he's got this woman who was supposed to die and didn't, is that she's a rebel, and everybody around her are a rebel, and the rebels are camping out in the ruined castle, and what's he going to do about that? So that's pretty much what it is. It's a lot of fun. It's a kind of a grim period in Scottish history because it's all war and fighting, but the strength of the nobility in these characters, these people that lived through this extended situation in Scotland is fascinating. So I keep going back to it.
That makes sense. The getting down to like the human condition and the
Yeah.
tenacity of the people who were.
Yeah, yeah, and I have a background my background's in medieval history, so I just love messing around in there. So
Well, it sounds delightful, and I'm really interested about the idea of working on a series that you've worked on before, and being able to type, polish it, and find all the bits and pieces that were a little bit buried before, and shine
and
them
make
up.
it stronger. Make it stronger. Not so gobbed up with too many words.
Yeah. One of the fun things that happened in HR is in one of Catherine's workshops, she read some of her older work. And there there were melons and eye gazing and all
Lots of,
kinds of stuff. But I think everybody has that, and that's one of the things that I'm not sure that people realize, how many words you have to write to be a writer. Like how many words you have to write that nobody should ever see.
Nobody should ever see these.
Should never see the light of day before you get to the point where you have a mastery of the craft that allows you to ask somebody to give you their time in exchange for your words. And that
Yeah. And if you figure that, a finished book is 80,000, 90,000, 100,000 words, and that's all cleaned up and finished, the tremendous amount of work that went into getting that version of the book, it's pretty staggering when you think about it.
And that's the writer's job. And so then you get to the end of the writer's job, and it goes on. It doesn't stop there. It goes on. It goes on to
Exactly.
Editors and proofreaders and formatters and cover designers.
There's so much. There's so much. Thank God for editors.
Finished product.
Right.
Oh, and yes.
Yes. I teach creative writing and in upper school, and I tell my students I love the editing process. I love it. I look forward to it. I'm so happy to have that kind of input. And I tell them, if I'm giving you a paper back and it's got some marks on it, that's not a criticism. We're working on this together. You're not a student. I'm not your teacher. I'm your editor. You're an author. And that's what we do in that classroom. It kind of takes the pressure off of them.
And it's such a shift too.
Helps them understand, that you can accept, someone saying, how about this way? What do you mean by this? Let's use 3 words instead of 14,
Yeah. That's a first draft when you just throw out everything and then you go back and you say, oh no. That doesn't need to be in there. No, that doesn't need to be in there. Right. We don't need to know that much backstory. No, let's just take that out.
And you don't see that right away, do you?
No. Yeah. You don't notice it until you go back, and then you say, oh no, we need to take this part out.
Stall if you saw it right away. Like I think you would stall. I think it would slow you down so much if you were simultaneously editing as you were writing.
I think that the longer that you write, the cleaner you write.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, like you just tend to write cleaner. At least I have. But I also think that your first draft, I go back and relook at it too much. And I'm finally to the point where I can say, okay, I can just vomit all this out and look at this later. And it's so much better if you put a book aside for even a couple weeks and then look at it again.
If you can,
changes.
That's the best when you read that and you go, I don't need that. Or I already said that. What's hard to find sometimes is where you've already explained something, and then to find those and pull them out so that you're not, sort of bothering the reader with, oh, I know that already, let's move on. So the writer has to keep up with that too.
Yeah. And I'm very bad at, always write like extended, right? There's always at least 5 books in every series that I write. Yeah. I like long series. I like lots of characters. I like family dynamics. And I tend to just put a whole bunch of people in there. And then I've got to go back and remember on book 8 what I said about them in book 2. Yes. So I I've got to get better at that, at keeping notes. And I keep notebooks, but there's
Then
just
you can't find it, right?
right. And then there's just some nuances you miss.
Yeah.
And you can believe it. If somebody's reading your book, I will get an email that said, okay, Kathleen, you said, I'm like, you're right. I did.
Eek.
I messed up. Right. That doesn't happen very often. I go back through like 3, 4, and 5 times, but every once in a while, I don't know. You said their hair was a golden blonde and it's a dirty blonde.
No, it's dirty blonde. She
You
needs to wash it, you know.
Maybe in the sun. Maybe they were out in the sun. It's okay.
But readers read differently than writers write too.
Yeah.
You know, like a reader will I'll sit down if there's a series and it's an author I like, and especially if it's in KU, I will sit down and I will go click, 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 click. I read relatively quickly, and I will move on through. As a writer, you labor over everything to get to that, you know, to get to the first draft, to get to the edited draft, to get to the draft that you send off to the editor, and then by the time it's published, it's at least 6 months after you know you wrote it, if not longer. And there's just there's a connection to the story, but a disconnect to the details. I think that makes it a little bit of a challenge to make sure that you've got your series straight.
Well, when you write, at least for me, it's been my experience that, you know, the characters talk to me, right? They talk to me. They're in my head. They're in there 24/7. But once I'm finished writing them, they go away, right? I don't listen. I don't hear them anymore. They're gone. And so for me, it's almost like I've already put them in a box and put them away. And so when I have to go back and relook at something again, it is a bit of a challenge because I've already said goodbye to them in my heart. Unless they're going to show up in another series, but I've already said goodbye to them. So, yeah.
I think Elizabeth Gilbert talks about that in Big Magic, when she talks about the muse and ideas that come to you, and then if the idea doesn't take root with you, that'll move on. And I think characters are the same way. You know, like they stay for the time that they're supposed to, which is going to make us all sound crazy. Which,
yes,
it's not true, but you know.
No, it is sort of true. It's sort of true. Yeah, it is.
We're creating worlds.
I double negative token.
You know, I've said before to people, I said, what if there's like this planet that has, you know, 1 million earls and dukes on it?
Yeah. Wouldn't that be great?
We're creating a huge, complex world. And the readers are so much a part of it. The readers are what make a book a dynamic thing. You know, the readers bring their own thing to it, right? And I think, especially looking at these older books and reworking them, we read differently then. You know, we had more patience for the long.
We did consume all of our media differently
detail and, you know, a big old long prologue and all that kind of thing. And I think readers now, even if they are original readers of those books, you know, their styles have changed, and younger readers have different styles. And so everybody's bringing something different to these books. And as a writer, you know, you have to keep that in mind, and yet write the book you want to write in the way you think is best to write it. You know, so our own reading styles as readers, outside of being writers, have evolved as well. So, yeah, there's just a lot of layers in writing a book.
Yeah, I just think that everybody, this society today is so hurry up. Let's get to good stuff, right? And so a lot of the rules I learned 20 years ago every time the meme comes up that says, okay, old timers, you don't have to put 2 spaces after a period, I crack up.
That was so
every
hard.
single time, because that was like a rule I had to really unlearn. Right?
That was so hard to change.
I was lucky. Right. You're right. I was lucky with that in a sense because the publisher that I was with at the time, Penguin, sent out, the editors sent out a memo to the authors saying, we are now going to put 1 space after the end of a sentence, just 1 space. You guys need to retrain yourself. And I asked my editor, why are we doing that? And she said, save a few pages, save some money.
Yeah. I mean,
makes the book a little shorter.
It just whenever I see that meme, I crack up.
Yeah.
Because everybody that's my age, I guess it's from also being on a typewriter, right?
Yeah.
Which is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, it just makes me laugh every single time. No double spaces.
But we don't typeset anymore the way we typeset before, so we don't need it the way we needed it before. I understand
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
boy, that was hard.
And all
her
those
answers,
rules.
yeah,
all those
they
rules
were just
about
saving paper, making the books a few pages shorter.
making them a little bit shorter. But yeah, it's interesting how writing has changed and reading has changed.
Yeah.
How everybody is different as far as how they read and how they write now. Yeah, it's very different.
And that idea, Susan, that you said about the reader making the book a dynamic process, because it's
they do.
between the writer and the reader, is a really interesting way to think of things, because people have connections to fictional characters that are as strong or stronger to connections that they have to real people. And I think part of that comes from that, that dynamic.
They activate a book. This is a concept, because I did my PhD work in art history, and one of the concepts, particularly when you study like modern art, is the role of that viewer. And with writing, you have the same thing, the role of the reader. They are part of this process. Where a viewer of an artwork is going to bring something to it. It probably goes back to, if a tree falls in the woods, does anybody hear it? It's that kind of thing with art and with writing.
Yeah, my undergraduate degree is in fine art, and I remember very much feeling like, as a young person, that I didn't have anything to say yet, because I was going to ask somebody to take their time and their attention and pay attention to this thing that I created, and that idea of there being a back and forth between a viewer and a piece of art, or an audience and a play, or a reader and a book that's a relationship that's very important, and I'm not sure if we talk about it often enough.
Yeah, I think it's just something that we're all kind of aware of, but I don't think we really focus on it. But as long as we're aware of it, we're gonna respond to it when we're creating something. I hope, and it's gonna make the book or whatever it is a little bit better,
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this went in a whole direction I didn't expect it to go, and it was like what I was thinking of. We have a few minutes left, ladies.
I'm just grateful. I am talking to Susan. I mean, maybe I should. I was like, God, I could sit on the phone with her for hours and just listen to her tell me about how I need to write better. So yeah, I might be calling you.
Oh, okay.
That's why these chats are my favorite part of the week, because I love having a chance to talk to our authors, and I always learn something new. Like, I don't freak out when I wake up at 2 a.m. anymore, because Emily Murdoch says that that's first sleep, second sleep, and that Chaucer wrote about it, and so that it's bona fide. That's the way we do. We wake up and go knead the bread, and then we come back to bed and go to sleep again. So I learned stuff.
Second sleep. Yeah.
Second sleep.
Third sleep, fourth sleep. Yeah.
Why not?
Sometimes I'll get all four in one night.
I never get all four in, but I don't beat myself up for the second one anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Why?
Worrying about sleeping makes you not sleep.
Yes.
There you go. There you go. And it's hard, but I find when it's, I write better late at night. So, when you finally say, I've had enough, and you go to bed, it's really hard to turn your brain off. Real hard. Yeah. So I
have
to read about finding transition. I'm like, no, I'm done. Yeah. I
read. I have to.
Yeah.
I probably read 5 books a week.
Wow.
After I'm done working, then because that's where I have set hours. I had to give myself set hours.
That's great.
And then for me to come down, I have to read. But I've been doing that my whole life. Even when I had a day job, right? I would come home and read for 3 hours. I have to, or I can't relax.
When I was young and single, you could come home from work and just like read and eat rice, and that's all.
Right. Well, I did have to take care of my child now and again and feed him. So I immediately start reading. But
there's that. Yeah.
Ladies, it was a delight to talk to you today. We keep going on and on and on. I'm so glad we had a chance to do this. I will put the links to all 3 books in the comments. So if you haven't gotten them yet, you can grab them and you can see the beautiful covers because they are indeed beautiful. And I'm going to say the same thing that I say every week because Dragonblade books are the best deal on pre-order and release. If you can grab them then, grab them then, grab them then. If you don't grab them then you can always read in Kindle Unlimited, which is also it's kind of like the chiclet way, not chiclet the candy, not chiclet the genre way of reading, because you can just move from one to the other without having to worry about it. So, all right. Well, it was so nice to talk to you, ladies. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you. It was nice meeting you, Kathleen and
Nice
Evelyn.
meeting you.